Hello students, let us continue our chapter, that is the nervous system. In last video, we learnt about transmission of nerve impulses and the three stages of it. In this video, we'll be talking about types of neurons. The first is sensory neuron, second is motor neuron, and the third one is association neuron. Sensory neurons means the neurons which sense the impulse, which sense the stimulation happening all around, and then it sends the impulse from receptor to the main nervous system. Main nervous system includes brain and spinal cord. Motor neuron, it sends the impulse from main nervous system to an effector. Effector means the muscles or the gland. Association neurons interconnect the sensory and the motor neurons, means helps in connecting sensory neuron and motor neuron. So these are the three types of neuron. Now let's talk about nerves. What are nerves? Nerves is a bundle of nerve fibers of separate neurons enclosed in a tubular sheath. We can compare these nerves as a wire which is enclosed in a plastic sheath or a rubber sheath. So the copper wires, if you can see, looks like a copper wire, and this sheath looks like a plastic sheath. So the nerves that contain the neuron fibers, neuron fiber mainly consist of axon. The axon terminals, the axons are present inside this nerves, and that makes nerve fibers. So there are three types of nerves. One is your sensory nerves, which contains only the sensory neurons. Another one is motor nerves, which contains only the motor neurons or motor fibers. And the third one is mixed nerves, which contains both sensory and motor fibers. Now let's study about two major divisions of nervous system. First is central nervous system and the second one is peripheral nervous system. From the word central nervous system, we can get that we can easily understand that the parts of the nervous system which are present right at the center, which we can say that the brain and the spinal cord forms the central nervous system. And if we are talking about peripheral nervous system, means the nerves which are arising from the central nervous system and going to the limbs and the other organs of our body. So that constitutes peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system or PNS consists of two subdivisions. So the subdivisions are somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. From the word autonomic, we can make out that automatic. So the work or the response which is done automatically inside our body, that means the work is involuntary in action. So the activities, the involuntary activities are controlled by autonomic nervous system, and just opposite to that is voluntary activities are controlled by somatic nervous system. So these are the two types of subdivisions of peripheral nervous system. Now let's study about brain. Brain is a very delicate organ, well protected inside the brain box or cranium of the skull. Skull, we can the portion of the skull which is helps in protecting the brain is known as brain box, or we can call it as cranium. The brain is protected by three membranous coverings called meninges. Meninges which continue backward on the spinal cord, means it covers the whole spinal cord. Now meninges, as I said, it consists of three membranes. We can see that is dura mater, arachnoid, and pia matter. If I zoom out this picture, you can see that dura mater is the tough fibrous membrane which is present right below the skull or cranium. Then arachnoid. Arachnoid is a web-like formation, web-like structure, cushion, which is delicate middle layer. And comes pia mater. Pia mater is the innermost highly vascular membrane which is richly supplied with blood vessels. So these are the three membranes of meninges that protects the delicate brain. Now, the coverings of the membrane consist of watery fluid, that is filled with watery fluid. The middle of the membranes is filled with watery fluid, and that fluid is named as cerebrospinal fluid. So these were the parts of the three membranes of meninges. Now let us go through the parts of the brain. First is cerebrum, second cerebellum, and third medulla oblongata. So we are talking about cerebrum now. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It is divided into two halves, cerebral hemispheres, right cerebral hemisphere and left cerebral hemisphere. Their surface is convoluted with ridges that is known as gyri and grooves, that is sulci. The walls have two regions, the outer cortex region and the inner medulla region. So if you can see here, there are certain ridges and grooves. You can see the ridges are known as gyrus or gyri, and the grooves, the darkened one, are known as sulci. After that, as I said, that outer region is known as cortex and inner region is known as medulla. So the outer portion contains the cell body of the neuron called gray matter. As it is grayish in color, so we can say it as gray matter. Inner portion of the cortex axon of the neuron contains the axons of the neuron, and that we can call it as white matter. Then there is a sheet which is present just below the cerebral hemisphere and connects the two cerebral hemisphere, that helps in the transfer of information from one hemisphere to another hemisphere, and the name of that sheet is known as corpus luteum. Corpus callosum. So cerebrum, what is the function of cerebrum? Cerebrum is the seat of intelligence, consciousness and willpower. So it controls all the voluntary activities. Voluntary activities, the activities which are in our control. Now we'll be talking about cerebellum. Cerebellum is located just at the base of the brain. If you can see here, the location of cerebellum under the large cerebrum. It has an outer cortex made up of gray matter and median section consists of white matter. What is the function of cerebellum? To maintain the balance of the body and coordinate muscular activities. So all the muscular activities like the movement of hands and legs, those are controlled by cerebellum, and the balance of the body, that is also maintained by cerebellum. So in our next video we'll be talking about medulla oblongata.